What's going on, guys? So this will be a brief overview of my pull day. I'd rate it maybe like 8 out of 10. You know, the effort level was there. I knew I trained hard, but in terms of deadlift session, I was not very happy with it. I'm not gonna lie. I was a bit frustrated because my grip just kept on giving out, or I don't know if my I don't know. It's hard to say whether it's my wrists. Maybe if I one thing that I've been thinking about is if I improve my wrist strength, maybe that will improve my grip strength. But I don't know how that. I think there's maybe some amount of correlation there. I'm not really too sure. But one thing that I've been thinking about though is I think if I add some dead hangs, that will improve my grip strength. And then if I add some wrist curls, that will improve my wrist strength. Then another thing that I've been also thinking about is removing one of my ab exercises and adding some hip extensions. I believe that's what it's called. Hopefully, got that right. The hip extensions, and that's supposed to help with targeting. I think it also helps with your erectors, but it's also I think it acts as like a hinge in some way. So I think it also helps with like hinge and in your spine as well, which is really important, especially if you're going to be doing something like deadlifting, right? So that is I think those are some things that we'll start considering. Maybe I'll implement it on Friday because Friday will be my next pull day, right? Because I'm doing a PPL split. So that's kind of my thoughts right there. Is I need to bring that up. I also been thinking about investing in some straps. Because the problem right now that I also have is when I'm doing something like a lat pull down or a T-bar row or rowing machine or it's just move or yeah, just movements like that, right? What happens is my grip will give out before my back does. Like I'll get sort of close to. Well, actually, that's not true. I'm probably like maybe 85 to. Actually, that sounds about right. 85 to 90% of getting my back fatigued, but then I'm still missing the extra 10% of fully fatiguing it, which is really problematic because that's a lot, guys. That does not sound like a lot, but that is a lot. And then basically what happens, like what I said before, is my grip will give out before my back does. My grip gets more fatigued before my back can fully fatigue. So that's really problematic, which is why I'm thinking about investing in some straps. If I do end up using the straps, I will use them for the T-bar row, the lat pull down, and the rowing machine. Right? I think those are the main three. Maybe I'm missing one more, but those are the main three. I think I'm using it. I'm thinking about using it on. I'm not going to use it on the deadlift. I'm not going to use it in pull-ups because I don't really want to do that. Because I want to use those. I want to try to do those two movements using less tools as possible. That's why if I go any higher than the current deadlift that I'm at right now, maybe I might use a belt. But for the time being, I really want to avoid using that. Trying to just build my core up naturally without having to use any sort of tools like that. Um, Another thing is also in this photo, this is a kroc row or a single arm dumbbell row. I think I'm going to toss this one out because I already have too many exercises that already target the upper back, in my opinion. So what I might do is I'll remove the kroc row or dumbbell single arm row, and I'll toss in some barbell row because I searched because lower back's a little bit trickier, guys. Is not, in my opinion, is not the back in general. I think is tricky, but the lower back, especially lower back, there's not a whole lot of exercises. I think I searched up online what are the best pull exercises for lower back, and it gave me something like deadlifts, Romanian deadlift, good mornings, barbell row, and then hip extensions, and they give me those main five, I guess. I'm sure there's some other, like I hope there's more. I'm sure there's more movements than just those five, but I guess those were the main five that they gave me. So that is not the easiest, right? There are also a couple of things. It's almost kind of like the rear delt as well. I know for a lot of people they also really struggle with the rear delt, right? It's also another one that's a little bit more difficult to hit. So some muscle groups are a little bit more trickier than others. One thing that I'll also say as well is Training in general is not the most fun thing in the world for sure because it's very repetitive. And so, but one good thing though I will say is I don't think taking breaks is actually a bad thing. Some people might actually kind of disagree with me, but I'll kind of give you a perspective of what I mean by that because I took a little break before I went back to training in the gym again and getting back into weight training where I was focusing on athletic training because I wanted to go into basketball. But what happened to me was, you guys know I trained for a year straight, and towards the end of the year, I'm not gonna lie, I think what happened was I was getting maybe a little bit too comfortable, or I looked at the gym, it just became like daily routine to me. So what basically what happened was on the weekend I wouldn't train, right? Then I only train on the weekdays. Or that's not true because I was also training on Saturday, I guess, as well. But now with currently, right, or I think there was some point of time where I only train on the weekdays. Um, but what ended happening was I was just kind of chill on the weekends. I wouldn't really think too much about the gym, which is fine because you don't need to think about it all the time, right? It doesn't need to be that crazy. But once the week would finish and the weekday would come, I'd be like, oh yeah, today is a weekdays now. That means I have to start training, and there wouldn't be some amount of excitement. So I would just go to the gym and not be excited, and I would just kind of do it, and it just become a routine. It's like brushing your teeth, and so that's basically what the gym became to me, was just brushing my teeth, just going through the motions and doing it because it's part of, it's just doing it automatically. It just became automatic, which in itself is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing if you're starting out in the gym because the main goal is you're just trying to be the most consistent as you can when you're in your first couple of months, because that's how a lot of people end up falling off, including myself at some point, right? Is in those first couple of months just not being consistent enough. And then what you start to realize is as you get more experience, the main issue doesn't really become whether or not you're going to do it, because you know you're going to do it. It just rather becomes you got to put a lot more effort, like a lot more effort, man. I think that's maybe I am overcomplicating it, and a lot of people do it overcomplicate it to some point, which is fair. But there's just I don't want to like I'm not trying to say this as like bad mouthing, um, but I'm just trying to be like honest as possible. I see a lot of people that don't look like they want to be in the gym, guys. I'll be honest. They're kind of I'll see like a group of guys, and it's fair, because who really cares? But you can't really complain about not making gains if you're not really serious about it. Because I see a lot of these guys all the time. They're hanging around just like one rowing machine. Three guys on these rowing machines. They're staring at their phones, and I don't know, man. There's just like I don't know. They just don't care, and that's fine. Whatever, who cares? That's whatever. That's your life. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter too much. All I'm saying is what I'm trying to get with this point is you kind of get what you put in, right? And that's what I noticed with myself is now I'm like going full throttle. I'm putting a lot more effort than it was before. So that's all I'm saying with that is don't expect to get the results that you want if you're not putting in the work, right? That's just, and sure, maybe I am sometimes. I think to myself maybe I'm overtraining because I'll spend like 3 hours in the gym, but I don't really care, man, because who cares? I'd rather overtrain than undertrain, and that's just what I prefer. I think before wasn't training hard enough, so now I'm pushing myself like full throttle. So that's my take there, guys. Sorry for rambling. Um, but maybe I'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow's leg day, and record that. So I'll see you guys maybe tomorrow.